What's up, guys? Chris Brown from Train Boston coming at you with another wellness moment. Today, I want to talk to you guys about behaviors, change, and what I call the 85% theory. Now, what we do in physical therapy, training, coaching, nutrition, anything like that, is we try to help people get to a point of success. And usually we have to take and change or modify what people are doing to get there. Now, that sounds pretty straightforward, and sometimes it can be, but it's a little deeper than that when you look into it. So, first, what are behaviors? Well, behaviors are actions that we perform over and over again that lead to where we are. You may have heard you are what you eat. That's basically getting at your behaviors make you who you are, and generally speaking, that's nutritional. But that can stand for anything. If you do mean things, you're going to be a probably disliked person. It can go in psychological, it can go in spiritual, physical, whatever you want. But so we are just basically a collection of our behaviors and actions and what we do. As a coach or a nutrition specialist, what we fall victim to is trying to prescribe our clients or patients just these action plans into what they need to do to fix their problems. The problem with that is we really need to train these individuals to train themselves how to fix their problems on their own. We can't just tell them, hey, this worked for me, so it should work for you too. We're coming from a different place. We have different knowledge bases, different experiences, so we have different behaviors already, so we're different people. What we have to do is coach and guide these people into being better. We need to help them change, okay? So really, what is change? Well, change is just being different. It isn't always better, but better is always a change. So that's a start, right? We know we need to change and we're accepting that we need to change. Once we get there, we have to work through how change feels. Now, inherently, change is going to feel inauthentic, meaning it doesn't feel like us. If I'm telling my kid to do his homework in a certain way because I do it that way, well, it's going to be kind of hard for him because he's never done it that way. All right, maybe it's a better way, but they don't see it that way. So it feels very inauthentic, and they think, "Oh, I don't want to do it this way. That's not what I do." The same thing could be maybe someone gives you constructive criticism at work, and they're telling you, "Hey, you're a little too harsh when you help John do their work." And at first, you're like, "Oh man, I'm not harsh," but maybe you are. And so if you start to be a little nicer, you may feel weird being like, "I'm not that type of person. I'm not so nice. I'm not so cuddly." But anytime you do anything different, it's going to feel that way. The same thing might go for working out. Maybe all you do is lift heavy all the time. You never do any sprints, agility work, plyometrics, anything like that. But someone tells you, hey, to get stronger or more powerful at your specific lift, you need to do this. You start doing it and you feel like, hey, oh man, I'm betraying myself. But you keep doing it over and over again, and you notice, hey, my numbers are actually getting better. So that's the thing. You just actually have to coach yourself and train yourself into being okay with your change until it feels authentic. Once you get to that point, you can kind of move on, okay? Now, the hard part is when we start to change, sometimes we can fall into the trap of what I like to get into is a 0 to 100% trap, okay? So it's very easy to do nothing and not change at all. And it's also very easy to do 100% and change and go 100% that way. An easy example of that is someone who, in exercise for us, that's a good example for us, is that they sit home and they do nothing. Or they do everything. They go into exercising and they lean on it as a crutch. They either get addicted to it, which is an actual addiction, and they neglect other things in their life like their family or their work to go to the gym, or they feel dependent on it and they're only known by fitness, meaning if you didn't have working out, you'd have no identity. You wouldn't know what to do with your life. And I'm sure some of you are experiencing that right now in isolation. Now, neither of those are good. Both of those are bad. But the thing is you know what? 50% isn't necessarily where we want to be either. You don't want to be exactly even necessarily. Our bodies and our minds and our spirits, they seek what's called homeostasis. Okay, now that just means balance within the body, really. But homeostasis, it's hardly ever 50%, and it's generally not 0 or 100% either. So we got to try to mimic that, what our body's already trying to do. All right. A good way to think about homeostasis is your body. So your blood pH. Your pH is the acidity level in your body. We know neutral pH is 7. Okay. Our body typically sticks of a range of 7.35 to 7.45. If we change that number too far, we will literally kill ourselves. But our body is very good at buffering that. That's our homeostasis, usually about 7.4. Okay. Another thing you can think about is that our bodies are not even. All right. So our lungs are not shaped on both sides evenly. Our heart does not sit on the exact dead line in the center behind the sternum. And we do not have the same amount of organs on each side. Okay. So if you cut someone in half, they're not going to be symmetrical through the center. So that's an easy way to think of homeostasis, right? Okay. Now, where do we want to go with that? What do we want to do with that information? What I like to do is I go by this rule of 85%. I call it the 85% theory. Now, generally speaking, if you do something around 85%, and mind you, this isn't perfect, but if you go around that, generally speaking, you're going to get progress. You're going to get forward motion without going too crazy, right? We're not getting neurotic here, okay? So 85%, say we're working out or doing a good behavior for 7 days a week. That's about 6 days a week, maybe 5.5. Okay, we're not being exact here. If you have 6 meals of your day, that's 5 meals of your day. Okay, and you can do that for any behavior, really. Any productive behavior is what we're going for here. Okay, and you'll generally start to see progress. But like most things, there are always exceptions to the rule. As I said earlier, sometimes 85% is not the right number. That's why I call it a theory. But it's even probably not even that. It's just a general guideline. Sometimes you need to be unbalanced for a while. All right. Pro athletes, they have to train in a completely unbalanced fashion. They may tell their significant other or their family or their job, hey, I need to take time away from this to do this really, really well. I'm going to the Olympics, guys. They might see that with a business owner. Maybe they really need to focus in the first 2 years to not go under. In the middle of a marathon, your mental state needs to go a little bit crazy to finish that marathon, especially if you're trying to break a record. Dieting. If you're 300, 400 pounds and you really, really need to save your life through dieting, maybe you need to go a little bit off the deep ends to get yourself to a healthy point where you're not at high risk. Now, that doesn't mean we want to stay there. We 100% do not want to stay in that unbalanced state. And that can be harder to break than you think. Most people think, hey, I'm invisible. I can do this all day, right? But you probably need some help, okay? So that's a big thing. Ask for help. Do not be afraid to ask for help here, guys. What I like to say is you need an emotional spotter, okay? That's just a fun thing to say because I'm a trainer here. But you need someone who can kind of ground you. That's why I think that having friends or family or significant others who are a little bit different than you and look at life in a different way is a good thing. That might also be a psychologist or someone to just talk to. I find that pro athletes at a high level, they benefit the most from sports psychologists because of this, because they're usually imbalanced. I think the same would go for business owners, CEOs, people in politics or very stressful positions. Unfortunately, in our country, we don't place enough value there. But hopefully that will change and we can work towards that. But we need to find someone to ground us and keep us in a good place. So if we're going a little unbalanced for a little while to succeed, which we might want to do, then we need to look for an emotional spotter. Okay? So as a recap, we want to know what our behaviors are. We need to know that we want to change and what behaviors we need to do to change. And we need to find a homeostasis, which may sometimes veer into 100% in one direction, may sometimes be 80%. Okay. And then we need to find someone who can help us either find that spot or help us recover from a little bit of an unbalanced position. Okay, guys. Now, next time I talk to you, I'll probably get into a little bit more of the psychology, a little bit more of how I do things. But in the meantime, I want you guys to try to find yourself an emotional spotter. If you already have one, great. Maybe you can learn by being an emotional spotter actively for somebody else. All right, guys, how do you feel? Do you feel like you're 85% or close to it all the time? Do you feel like you have an emotional spotter? Do you need one? All right, post in the comments. Let me know down below. Make sure to like and subscribe to my video if you like what you're hearing here, guys. And thank you very much. We'll see you next time.